You may have heard about the deportation flight that was scheduled to take around about 30 or 50 people to Jamaica. There was a bit of a hoo-ha about it. People were protesting it, although they didn't go protest the airplane at the airport. They protested at Downing Street, just in case the flight control center was actually based there. Thing is, it's the way it's been painted is that these are people just being deported for no real good reason. That they're just it's these poor people and they're just sending them back for no good reason. It's Windrush all over again. That's the way it's been painted by certain sides of the aisle. But I think it's important to understand the general reason why they're being deported, which is kind of this. I mean, Jamaica deportation flight takes off despite appeal court order. The 17 criminals who were deported to Jamaica had combined jail sentences of at least 75 years, according to the Home Office. I don't know. 17 criminals, a combined jail sentence of 75 years. I mean, maybe not the most hardcore of criminals if you look at, if you divide up the amount of years there. I mean, if it said, 250 years, you'd be like, whoo, see you later. But this isn't a Windrush type situation. This is something different. And that's the point. Whether you agree with it or not, it's different. But it's very different to people just being deported because of silly little things. Committing crimes when you're not a British citizen has consequences, despite how long you've been there. And it's pretty much the same in every country on planet Earth. So when it's been painted as, oh look, this is us living under a fascist dictatorship. No, it's not. It's something that everyone does. That's an important thing to remember. But that doesn't seem to matter to certain activists and certain political thinkers, because they think everything that just looks wrong must be wrong. In a sense, like you had that girl who protested that man that was being deported back to Afghanistan, who went on the airplane. I think it turned out in the end that he was getting deported because he was a rapist. I'm pretty sure it was rape is what he'd done. It was something nasty like that. He's going to be tortured when he gets to his own country. Because they do torture rapists, I'd imagine. So yeah, okay. It's like it sort of doesn't matter because what they see as being wrong has to be stopped, regardless of the context of the situation. It's a very bizarre way to behave. But, let's have a look. I mean, the planned deportation flight to Jamaica has taken off, despite a court appeal judge ordering the Home Office not to deport 25 of the detainees amid concerns over their access to legal advice. The flight had been scheduled to take off at 6:30 a.m. God, they really like to get them up in the morning, don't they? Fancy that. Is having to get up for 6:30 a.m. flight? I imagine the check-in process is a bit different. I mean, that's really out of order, isn't it? Anyway, Tuesday, but hours earlier, a last-minute legal challenge by human rights groups meant many of the intended passengers were removed. A Court of Appeal judge had ordered the Home Office not to carry out a planned deportation amid concerns mobile phone outages had prevented detainees from having access to legal advice. The government has said it will urgently appeal the court ruling. The Prime Minister's official spokesman said there are 25 foreign national offenders who the court ruled could not be removed and are therefore still in the country. The offences which these people were responsible for include 1. Manslaughter, 1 firearms offence, 7 violent offences, 2 which are in the category of rape or sexual offences, and 14 drug offences. We bitterly regret this decision which prevents the removal from our country of foreign criminals convicted of rape, manslaughter, sexual attacks, violence, and drug crimes which spread misery across our communities. Manslaughter is obviously always a bit debatable about manslaughter. I know people who've done time for manslaughter. Rape can be a bit choppy. Not all rape is rapey rape. Firearms offences, drug crimes. But on paper, this doesn't look good. But I'm not sure who exactly the people were trying to defend. Maybe it was the lesser criminally minded that didn't get deported in the end, and maybe justice was served. I don't know. But if they're not wanting to, but the way it looked, it was none of them should get deported. I was like, this is the thing. In certain countries, like in Thailand, for example, if you overstay your visa by a certain amount of days, you get banned from the country for 1 year. If you do certain things that are not approved of, like disrespect the king, or engage in some sort of sex act in public, your ass is getting banned. Do you know what I mean? These are lesser crimes than rape. I don't know what they do to rape. Well, I think they put them in jail, and then they'll deport your ass so fast. They probably put you in a cannon and fire you back to whichever country you came from. Now, to make out that we're real harsh in comparison to the rest of the world would be a very misguided statement, to say the least. Anyway, we bitterly regret this decision, which prevents removal. The legal process for removing these offenders, which has included repeated appeals and judicial reviews, has already cost the British public tens of thousands of pounds. The taxpayer will now be left with an even bigger bill and the prospect of convicts who are considered to pose a threat to the UK being granted bail. While this matter is resolved, we make no apology whatsoever for seeking to remove serious foreign national offenders and will be urgently appealing. Bella Sankey of Detention Action wrote on Twitter that a number of people clearly covered by the order had been removed to the airport. Earlier she said, "We are delighted the Court of Appeal has twice stood up for fundamental rights and access to justice. If the government wants to show strength and leadership, it will now reflect with humility and accept calls for its flawed detention and deportation systems to be fundamentally reformed." There were heated scenes in the House of Commons on Monday afternoon. I'm assuming it's involving David Lammy making the point about Black Lives. But I think the most likely thing is that this is sort of concentrated on one particular deportation exercise, when there's people getting deported to all stretches of the globe for all sorts of crimes. So therefore, it's a pick and choose situation, isn't it? Whichever looks pretty in paper. So there were shouts of shame as Home Secretary Priti Patel left the chamber, leaving Junior Minister Kevin Foster to respond. More than 150 MPs have signed a letter calling on the Prime Minister to step in and stop the flight. On Tuesday morning, Chancellor Sajid Javid defended the government's decision to go ahead with the flight. He told BBC Radio 5 Live, excuse me, "We will always do what we can to protect the public. These are foreign national offenders. They have all received custodial sentences of 12 months or more. They are responsible for crimes like manslaughter, rape, dealing in Class A drugs. And it's absolutely right, when they have served their sentences, that we send them out of the country because they are not British nationals, they are not members of the Windrush generation, they are all foreign national offenders." So yeah, comparing it to Windrushes would be incorrect because they are not members of the Windrush generation. I did hear one argument about one case of someone who'd been here since he was 11 and committed crimes later on. And it does seem a bit harsh that if you've been here since 11, then you get deported back to a country that's probably very unfamiliar to you now. You do change a lot from the age of 11. And he probably didn't, and maybe he didn't realise that he'd get deported. But the thing is, in law, there's no such thing as ignorance of the law. And that's kind of the issue. You do have a case if you've been here for a while, but then when if you committed a major crime, and not if you robbed something, or I don't know, or he was carrying a gun, there's certain crimes where you're just like, okay. There was an argument that, he's a victim of circumstance. This is the environment he grew up in. He didn't know no better. This is what he does. He's criminal minded, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, if you're going to do crimes, I never ever got involved in crime in which I couldn't serve the time for it. Know your limits is the sort of thing, as I'm saying. Because dealing crack cocaine is extremely lucrative. I don't know if you've heard. I'll never get fully deep into that, despite wanting to make shitloads of money. Because the mandatory sentences for it are just way too much. I couldn't deal with it. So therefore, I'm not going to do something where I will not be able to handle the consequences of it. It's as simple as that. So therefore, there's that. And like I say, ignorance of the law. And it is standard practice pretty much everywhere. If you're a foreign national and you get convicted of a crime, you will be deported. So the way it's been painted is, this is a crime against humanity and so forth. Yeah, well, if you rape someone, that's a crime against humanity. You know? But if you ended up in a situation where you're pretty much a British citizen by default, I guess is the way I'd say it, and then you get deported, it's like, that's a bit shitty, isn't it? Is it dependent on the crime, or is all crimes going to be treated the same? Because then again, you got to think about it from the from the other point of view. I mean, Jamaica's got enough of its own problems. It's like, there's a flight coming in with rapists and murderers today. Oh, brilliant! Yeah, they're going to stay here now. Oh, thanks. There is that as well. It's like, well, we don't want them. They might be like that guy. Oh, really? Boris Johnson's on the phone to, I can't remember who the leader of Jamaica is, but he's like, oh, yeah, we're sending a plane over. Oh, really? Yeah, we're not sending our best. Well, they're not your best now. Bye. Oh, no, international law sucks. But, like I said, the way I've seen it painted out is as if, these are just innocent, rose petal pickers. Who did nothing but say boo to a goose and pat children on the head and, help the lollipop lady assist kids across the road. But unfortunately, life isn't that black and white, is it?